Every great success story begins with a hidden test, a moment where life becomes silent, progress feels invisible, and the mind starts whispering the dangerous word, quit. Most people believe success arrives with applause, certainty, and confidence. But the truth is, success often appears disguised as pressure, delay, rejection, and doubt. The final test before success is not about your talent. It is about your endurance. It is the moment the universe asks one question: will you still believe when nothing around you proves it yet? Tonight, you must understand that the darkest hour in your journey is often the closest point to your breakthrough. Hold your vision. Protect your faith. Because what feels like the end may actually be the final test before your greatest victory. There comes a moment in every person's journey when the excitement disappears. The vision that once felt alive suddenly feels heavy. The energy that pushed you in the beginning starts fading, and the dream that once kept you awake at night begins to look impossible in the daylight of reality. This is the moment where most people stop, not because they are incapable, not because they lack intelligence, not because success was never meant for them. They stop because they misunderstand the pressure. They think resistance means they are losing, when in truth resistance often means they are approaching a breakthrough. The human mind is trained to expect quick proof. People want immediate confirmation that their effort is working. They want signs, applause, visible rewards, and instant movement. But life does not operate that way. The greatest rewards are usually hidden behind the greatest tests. Before a new level appears in your life, something inside you is examined. Your patience is examined. Your belief is examined. Your emotional endurance is examined. Life wants to know whether your desire is temporary or permanent. Most people become excited at the beginning because beginnings are emotional. The beginning is filled with imagination. You can picture the success before the difficulties arrive. You can feel inspired before the sacrifices become real. In the beginning, everybody feels powerful. Everybody talks confidently. Everybody believes they are different. But eventually, the dream stops feeling cinematic. The routine becomes repetitive. The failures become personal. The silence becomes uncomfortable. That is where separation begins. A person can work hard for weeks and still remain motivated because the mind believes rewards are close. But when months pass and the external world does not change, fear starts speaking louder than faith. Doubt enters quietly. It does not arrive shouting. It arrives whispering questions. What if this never works? What if you are wasting your time? What if others were right about you? Those thoughts begin weakening the emotional foundation of a person. The dangerous part is that most people do not quit suddenly. They quit mentally long before they quit physically. Their actions slow down because belief has weakened inside them. That final stage before success often looks nothing like success. It looks like confusion. It looks like exhaustion. It looks like delay. The person feels trapped between effort and uncertainty. They are no longer motivated by excitement because excitement disappeared long ago. Now only discipline remains. Only faith remains. Only the decision to continue remains. This is why very few people ever experience extraordinary results. They underestimate the emotional cost of greatness. Everyone wants the reward, but very few are willing to survive the invisible battle that happens before the reward appears. Most people turn around at the exact moment life is preparing to change for them. They mistake temporary discomfort for permanent failure. A miner can dig for years without finding gold. Imagine stopping inches before discovering what could transform your entire future. The tragedy is that many people live exactly like that without realizing it. They stop because the pressure becomes uncomfortable. They stop because progress becomes invisible. They stop because they compare their timeline with somebody else's highlight reel. They stop because they expect the world to encourage them while they are still becoming the person they were meant to be. The mind becomes dangerous when it loses vision. If a person cannot emotionally connect to the future anymore, the present begins controlling them. Temporary pain starts looking permanent. Small failures start looking fatal. One rejection begins defining their entire identity. This is why protecting your inner world becomes essential during difficult seasons. The external world can remain unchanged while your inner world quietly determines your destiny. There are moments when nothing around you will validate your effort. Nobody will understand your sacrifices because they cannot see the picture inside your mind. They only see your current circumstances. They measure your future based on your present condition. But every great transformation begins invisibly. Before the tree appears above the ground, the roots grow in darkness. Nobody celebrates roots. Nobody applauds invisible growth. Yet the unseen stage is the most important stage of all. People often believe successful individuals possess some special advantage, but many of them simply endured longer than others. They continued after motivation disappeared. They continued after embarrassment. They continued after repeated disappointment. They continued when logic suggested stopping. Persistence becomes powerful because most people emotionally collapse before the breakthrough arrives. There is a psychological battle that happens when a person feels close to something greater but cannot touch it yet. The pressure intensifies because the old version of them is dying while the new version has not fully appeared. That transition feels uncomfortable. Human beings naturally seek certainty, but growth requires uncertainty. Growth requires walking through seasons where answers are incomplete. Many people pray for success, but they are not prepared for the process that creates it. Success changes identity. It demands emotional maturity. It demands resilience. It demands the ability to remain stable during chaos. The final test before success is often designed to strengthen the very qualities your future will require. A weak mind cannot manage a powerful future. This is why difficult moments are not always punishments. Sometimes they are preparation. Sometimes the delay is developing patience. Sometimes the rejection is building emotional independence. Sometimes the silence is teaching you how to believe without external validation. There are people who stop pursuing their dream not because they failed, but because they became tired of waiting. Waiting attacks the mind differently than failure. Failure hurts suddenly, but waiting hurts slowly. Waiting creates overthinking. Waiting creates emotional fatigue. Waiting makes people question their own worth. Yet some of the greatest rewards in life arrive only after periods of prolonged uncertainty. The individual who survives those seasons develops a different mentality. They stop depending on emotions and start depending on commitment. They understand that feelings change daily, but purpose must remain stable. They realize that success is not built in moments of excitement. It is built in ordinary days where nobody is watching and no reward is visible yet. The reason most people quit too early is because they underestimate how deceptive the final stage can feel. Just before a breakthrough, pressure often increases. Challenges intensify. Fear becomes louder. Doubt becomes more convincing. The mind interprets this pressure as evidence that something is wrong, but many times the opposite is true. Pressure can mean transformation is near. Think about how diamonds are created. Intense pressure over time creates something valuable. Without pressure, the diamond never forms. Human character operates similarly. The strongest people are usually those who endured seasons that almost broke them. Their strength was not born from comfort. It was born from surviving moments where quitting felt reasonable. The world teaches people to chase comfort, but comfort rarely produces greatness. Comfort makes people weak emotionally. Comfort teaches dependence on convenience. But the person who learns how to continue during discomfort develops an uncommon power. They become dangerous because their actions are no longer controlled by temporary emotions. Many individuals never realize how close they were because they quit too soon. They leave the gym before the body transforms. They abandon the business before momentum appears. They stop creating before recognition arrives. They walk away from opportunities because the beginning of success rarely looks glamorous. There are nights when your mind will try convincing you that your effort is meaningless. The voice of doubt will sound intelligent. Fear will present logical arguments. You will feel tempted to retreat into safety because safety feels emotionally easier than uncertainty. But safety has destroyed more dreams than failure ever has. A person must learn how to hold belief during invisible seasons. That is where inner power is developed. Anyone can remain confident after receiving rewards. Anyone can feel positive after winning. But maintaining discipline while results are absent requires a completely different level of mental strength. The people who eventually rise are not always the most talented. They are often the people who refuse to disappear during difficult seasons. They survived embarrassment. They survived criticism. They survived loneliness. They survived the painful period where nothing seemed to work. While others allowed temporary pain to define their future, they kept moving forward one step at a time. Life often tests people with silence before rewarding them with opportunity. It asks whether they truly believe in their vision or whether they only believed when conditions felt easy. The final test before success is usually hidden inside discouragement. It is hidden inside exhaustion. It is hidden inside moments where continuing seems irrational. Most people never reach extraordinary destinations because they obey temporary emotions. The moment things become difficult, they retreat. The moment uncertainty appears, they panic. But the person who understands the law of persistence sees difficulty differently. They understand that pressure is not always a stop sign. Sometimes pressure is evidence that growth is occurring beneath the surface. When a plane takes off, resistance against the wind increases before elevation happens. Without resistance, the plane never leaves the ground. Human growth follows the same principle. Resistance often appears before elevation. The problem is that most people interpret resistance emotionally instead of intelligently. There are seasons where the only thing separating success from failure is the decision to continue one more day, one more attempt, one more sacrifice, one more disciplined action despite fear, despite uncertainty, despite exhaustion. Greatness is often hidden inside ordinary persistence repeated longer than most people can tolerate. There is a dangerous moment in every ambitious person's life when effort no longer produces visible proof. The actions continue, the sacrifices continue, the discipline continues, yet the external world remains silent. No applause arrives. No dramatic breakthrough appears. No immediate reward confirms that the path is working. This is the stage where the human mind becomes unstable if it has not learned the art of inner control. Because when results stay invisible, The mind begins creating stories, and those stories determine whether a person rises or collapses. Most people are not defeated by hard work. They are defeated by the emotional tension of uncertainty. They can tolerate pain if they know exactly when the reward will arrive, but life rarely reveals the timeline. The hardest burden is not effort itself. The hardest burden is continuing without evidence. It is waking up every morning and moving forward while your current reality refuses to reflect your vision. Human beings naturally crave visible progress. The brain wants reassurance. It wants measurable signs that things are improving. This is why many people become addicted to quick rewards and temporary validation. They need immediate proof to remain emotionally stable. But greatness requires a completely different mentality. It requires the ability to hold faith in unseen outcomes. It requires emotional endurance when the visible world remains unchanged. There are moments when you will feel like nothing is happening. You will question whether your sacrifices matter. You will wonder whether all the time, energy, and focus are being wasted. The dangerous part is that invisible progress feels identical to failure in the early stages. A seed buried underground looks lifeless to the outside world. Nobody sees the roots forming beneath the surface. Nobody applauds the hidden process. Yet the invisible stage is where real transformation begins. The weak mind becomes emotional during silent seasons. It starts searching for escape routes. It becomes impatient. It compares itself to others. It seeks distractions to avoid the discomfort of uncertainty. But the strong mind learns how to remain calm while results are developing invisibly. It understands that not everything valuable grows quickly. Many people lose their future because they misunderstand timing. They expect massive change in small periods while underestimating the power of consistency over long periods. They become discouraged because they focus only on visible movement. What they fail to understand is that some of the greatest progress in life happens internally before it appears externally. A person can become mentally stronger long before their financial situation changes. They can develop discipline long before success recognizes them publicly. They can build wisdom long before opportunities arrive. The external reward often appears last because life first transforms the individual internally. Your mind becomes your greatest weapon during seasons where nothing around you confirms your belief. If your mind is weak, silence will destroy you. Delay will weaken your confidence. Temporary setbacks will feel permanent. But if your mind is trained properly, invisible results will not intimidate you because you understand that creation always begins unseen. The architect sees the building before construction begins. The inventor believes in the possibility before the world accepts the idea. Every major accomplishment exists mentally before it exists physically. This is why protecting your inner vision matters so much. The world often attacks what it cannot yet understand. There are people who abandon their purpose simply because they became addicted to external validation. They need praise to continue. They need recognition to stay motivated. But life will eventually place every person in a season where external encouragement disappears. In those moments, go. Self-belief becomes more important than public approval. A strong mind understands that visible results are delayed reflections of repeated actions. The reward may not appear immediately, but the process is still shaping the future. A weak mind focuses only on what can be seen today. A disciplined mind focuses on what is being built tomorrow. This is why emotional control becomes essential. If your emotions rise and fall based on daily results, your consistency will never survive long enough to create greatness. One bad week will destroy your focus. One rejection will damage your confidence. One delay will make you abandon years of potential. People often believe success belongs to those with superior talent, but many talented individuals fail because they cannot manage their thoughts during difficult seasons. Talent means little if the mind collapses under pressure. A person with average ability and extraordinary persistence will often outperform someone gifted but mentally weak. There are nights when fear will sound intelligent. Your mind will calculate every risk, every delay, every possibility of failure. It will tempt you to retreat towards safety because uncertainty feels uncomfortable. The human brain seeks protection from emotional pain, but growth requires entering spaces where certainty no longer exists. The strongest individuals are not those who never experience doubt. They are the ones who continue despite doubt. Courage does not mean the absence of fear. Courage means movement in the presence of fear. It means refusing to surrender your vision even while uncertainty surrounds you. The invisible stage of success tests emotional maturity. Can you remain disciplined without applause? Can you continue improving when nobody notices? Can you trust the process when the evidence has not appeared yet? These questions separate dreamers from builders. Most people want extraordinary lives, but they maintain ordinary emotional habits. They panic too quickly. They lose focus too easily. They allow temporary frustration to control permanent decisions. They want massive rewards while possessing fragile patience. Patience is not passive waiting. Real patience is emotional stability during delayed outcomes. It is maintaining effort while the visible world stays unchanged. It is refusing to let silence convince you that nothing is happening. Think about physical training. The body does not transform after one workout. Progress appears slowly. At first, the mirror barely changes. The effort feels repetitive and invisible, but hidden beneath the surface, muscles are adapting, strength is increasing, endurance is developing. If a person quits too early because they cannot yet see results, they interrupt the very process capable of transforming them. Life follows the same principle. Invisible seasons are often preparation periods. The mind is being strengthened. Discipline is being formed. Character is being refined. But because society glorifies instant success, people lose patience with processes that require time. The modern world trains people to expect immediate gratification, fast entertainment, fast responses, fast rewards. This conditioning creates emotional weakness because anything requiring prolonged endurance starts feeling unbearable. Yet almost every meaningful achievement in life demands sustained focus over long periods without visible proof. There will be moments when others question your journey. Some people will quietly mock your persistence because they judge based on appearances. They only believe in things they can already see. They cannot understand invisible progress because their minds are controlled by external evidence. But the strongest visionaries throughout history often worked in silence before recognition arrived. Their belief existed before the world validated them. If they had depended on public approval during the invisible stage, their dreams would have died before becoming reality. Your environment may remain unchanged for a long time. Your finances may not improve immediately. Opportunities may not appear quickly. Doors may stay closed longer than expected. Yet none of those conditions have the authority to destroy your future unless your mind surrenders first. A strong mind learns how to separate temporary circumstances from permanent identity. Failure becomes an event, not a definition. Delay becomes a phase, not a destiny. Rejection becomes redirection, not proof of inadequacy. This mental discipline creates emotional freedom. You stop depending on immediate results to feel confident. You stop measuring your worth based on current appearances. You stop allowing temporary setbacks to decide your future direction. Many people unknowingly destroy their momentum because they constantly dig up their progress to check whether it is growing. They become impatient with invisible development. They want certainty before commitment, but certainty rarely appears before action. Most breakthroughs reveal themselves only after prolonged persistence. The farmer does not plant seeds and panic the next morning because crops have not appeared yet. He understands the law of seasons. He respects the process of growth. He knows invisible work is happening beneath the surface, even when nothing visible exists above the ground. Human success operates under similar laws. There are planting seasons, development seasons, waiting seasons, and harvest seasons. The problem is that most people emotionally collapse during the waiting season because they interpret silence incorrectly. A mind trained in faith sees silence differently. It understands that invisible does not mean inactive. Just because results cannot yet be seen does not mean progress is absent. Some transformations require time because shallow growth cannot sustain massive success. A weak foundation collapses under heavy pressure. This is why life often builds slowly. It strengthens the person internally before placing greater responsibility externally. Without inner stability, external success becomes dangerous. The person who survives invisible seasons develops unusual resilience. They become less dependent on emotions and more committed to purpose. They understand that motivation is temporary, but disciplined belief creates lasting power. There is a calm confidence that emerges when a person learns how to trust delayed outcomes. They stop panicking over temporary appearances. They stop comparing timelines. They stop demanding instant proof from life. Their energy becomes focused, patient, and controlled. While others become distracted by short-term discomfort, they continue building quietly. While others chase immediate validation, they remain committed to long-term vision, while others abandon the process because nothing visible is happening. They keep strengthening themselves internally. The mind must become stronger than appearances, stronger than fear, stronger than delay, stronger than temporary failure, because the visible world constantly changes, but the disciplined mind creates stability even during uncertainty. Every extraordinary achievement once existed invisibly. Before recognition came, there was obscurity. Before results appeared, there was repetition. Before victory arrived, there were countless moments where continuing felt difficult. The individual who learns how to remain mentally powerful during invisible seasons possesses an advantage most people never develop. They are no longer controlled by immediate outcomes. They are no longer emotionally dependent on quick rewards. Their confidence comes from inner conviction rather than external evidence. And once a person reaches that level of mental strength, temporary silence no longer has the power to stop them because they understand that some of the greatest transformations in life happen long before the world can see them. Pain has a strange way of changing people. Some become stronger because of it, while others become prisoners of it. The difference is not in the amount of pain they experience. The difference is in the meaning they attach to it. One person sees struggle as proof that life is against them. Another sees struggle as evidence that transformation is taking place. The same storm that destroys one mind can awaken power in another. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid discomfort. They search for easy paths, quick rewards, and emotionally safe environments. They believe success should feel smooth if they are truly meant for it. But life rarely introduces greatness through comfort. Growth almost always arrives disguised as inconvenience, resistance, delay, rejection, and pressure. The tragedy is that many people walk away from their future because they misread the signs. Pain is often interpreted emotionally instead of intelligently. The moment difficulty appears, people panic. They assume something is wrong. They believe struggle means failure. But some of the most important moments in human development are painful precisely because the old version of a person is being forced to die. Transformation is uncomfortable because growth demands separation from familiar habits, familiar thinking, and familiar limitations. Every powerful future requires the destruction of weaker patterns. That destruction never feels pleasant. The mind resists change because human beings are naturally attached to certainty. Even unhealthy routines feel emotionally safe when they become familiar. This is why many people remain trapped in ordinary lives. Not because opportunity never appeared, but because discomfort frightened them back into limitation. There are moments when life removes what once made you comfortable. Certain relationships begin fading. Certain opportunities collapse unexpectedly. Certain plans stop working. At first, it feels like loss. It feels unfair. It feels confusing, but many times, life is clearing space for something greater while the person is still emotionally attached to what can no longer carry them forward. Rejection operates the same way. Human beings fear rejection because they connect it to personal worth. They interpret closed doors as evidence of inadequacy. But rejection is not always destruction. Sometimes rejection is protection. Sometimes rejection is direction. Sometimes the very opportunity you cried over losing would have trapped you in a smaller future. A person with a weak mindset allows rejection to define their identity. One failure becomes proof that they are incapable. One criticism becomes proof that they should stop. One setback becomes proof that success belongs only to other people. But a strong mind understands that rejection is part of refinement. It forces adaptation. It sharpens focus. It builds emotional endurance. Imagine a sculptor creating a masterpiece from stone. Every strike of the hammer looks violent. Pieces break away constantly. To an untrained eye, it appears destructive, but the sculptor sees differently. Every strike removes what does not belong. Every painful impact reveals something greater hidden inside the stone. Human development follows the same principle. Pain often removes weakness, illusion, pride, distraction, and dependency. Many people pray for strength while avoiding the process that creates strength. But strength cannot exist without resistance. Patience cannot exist without delay. Courage cannot exist without fear. Discipline cannot exist without temptation. Every valuable trait is developed through pressure. The individual who learns how to reinterpret pain gains extraordinary power. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they begin asking, "What is this preparing me for?" That shift changes everything. Pain no longer becomes an enemy. It becomes instruction. Difficulty becomes training. Delays become classrooms for emotional maturity. There are seasons where nothing in your life feels stable. The plans you trusted stop making sense. The people you depended on disappear. The confidence you once carried becomes harder to maintain. These moments are dangerous because uncertainty creates emotional exhaustion. The human mind seeks clarity, and when clarity disappears, fear quickly fills the empty space. Fear has destroyed more potential than failure ever could. Failure is temporary, but fear can become permanent if allowed to control decisions. Fear convinces people to settle for smaller lives, because small lives feel emotionally safer. It tells them to avoid risks, avoid visibility, avoid vulnerability, and avoid possibility. The result is a life built around protection instead of purpose. The strongest individuals are not fearless. They simply refuse to allow fear to become authority. They understand that growth exists on the opposite side of emotional discomfort. Every new level in life requires entering unfamiliar territory, and unfamiliar territory always feels uncomfortable at first. A child learning to walk falls repeatedly. Imagine if the child interpreted every fall as proof that walking was impossible. Growth would stop immediately. But children possess something adults often lose: persistence without embarrassment. They continue despite failure because they expect mistakes to be part of the process. Adults become emotionally fragile because they fear looking unsuccessful. They fear judgment. They fear temporary defeat. Society conditions people to protect appearances instead of pursuing transformation. As a result, many people would rather remain comfortable and invisible than risk becoming uncomfortable while growing. But every breakthrough demands emotional sacrifice. There are levels of success that cannot be reached while remaining the same person mentally. Your habits must evolve. Your thinking must evolve. Your emotional control must evolve. The pain of growth comes from leaving behind identities that once felt safe. Sometimes life delays things not to punish you, but to prepare you. Immediate success given to an emotionally unprepared person often becomes destruction. Without discipline, opportunities become distractions. Without wisdom, power becomes dangerous. Without emotional maturity, success becomes unstable. This is why difficult seasons matter. They expose weaknesses that comfort hides. When everything feels easy, people rarely examine themselves honestly. Pressure reveals character. Delay reveals patience. Rejection reveals emotional stability. Hardship reveals whether belief is genuine or conditional. Most people believe confidence comes from success, but true confidence often comes from surviving failure. A person who has endured rejection and continued moving develops a deeper kind of strength. They stop fearing temporary setbacks because experience taught them they can survive them. Pain also teaches detachment from external validation. During difficult seasons, applause often disappears. Encouragement becomes rare. Recognition fades. At first, this feels lonely, but eventually it forces a person to discover internal motivation. They stop depending on public approval to continue their journey. This creates emotional independence, which is one of the rarest forms of strength. Most people are emotionally controlled by outside reactions. Praise lifts them up. Criticism destroys them. Acceptance motivates them. Rejection weakens them. But the emotionally disciplined person remains focused regardless of external noise. There are moments where life intentionally isolates individuals so they can hear themselves clearly. Constant distraction prevents self-discovery. Constant comfort prevents growth. Isolation forces confrontation with fear, insecurity, weakness, and truth. Many people avoid silence because silence exposes unresolved emotions. Noise becomes a form of escape. Entertainment becomes avoidance. Business becomes distraction from deeper internal battles. But transformation requires honesty. It requires confronting the parts of yourself that comfort allowed you to ignore. The pain of discipline is often misunderstood. Waking up early when exhausted feels painful. Staying committed while others relax feels painful. Remaining focused while surrounded by distractions feels painful. But there is another kind of pain that is far more dangerous: the pain of regret. Regret grows slowly. It appears years later when a person realizes they abandoned their potential because temporary discomfort frightened them. They remember opportunities they refused to pursue, dreams they delayed too long, risks they were too afraid to take. Regret becomes heavy because deep inside, people know they were capable of more. The individuals who eventually build extraordinary lives are usually those who learn how to coexist with discomfort. They stopped expecting the journey to feel easy. They stopped demanding perfect conditions before taking action. They understood that emotional discomfort is often temporary, but the rewards of persistence can last a lifetime. Every challenge carries hidden instruction. Financial struggle teaches resourcefulness. Loneliness teaches self-reliance. Failure teaches adjustment. Rejection teaches emotional strength. Delay teaches patience. Pressure teaches endurance. The person who learns from pain becomes wiser. The person who resists learning from pain becomes bitter. Bitterness traps people in victim mentality. They blame circumstances endlessly while refusing to grow internally. Wisdom does the opposite. Wisdom transforms suffering into fuel. Some of the strongest people in the world were once completely broken emotionally, but instead of allowing pain to destroy them, they allowed it to rebuild them differently. They developed sharper focus, stronger discipline, deeper gratitude, and greater emotional control. Hardship has a way of revealing what truly matters. During difficult seasons, illusions disappear. Fake relationships disappear. Empty distractions lose their appeal. A person begins understanding life more clearly because struggle removes superficial thinking. This is why many successful individuals eventually become grateful for seasons they once hated. Looking back, they realize those painful moments shaped their identity. The rejection redirected them. The delay matured them. The failure humbled them. The struggle strengthened them. There are versions of yourself that comfort could never create. Some qualities emerge only through adversity. Some levels of wisdom appear only after disappointment. Some forms of confidence develop only after survival. The world often celebrates visible victories while ignoring invisible battles. People applaud success after it becomes public, but they rarely see the lonely nights, silent doubts, repeated failures, and emotional wars that happened beforehand. Every powerful individual carries private scars that contributed to their strength. Pain is not always punishment. Sometimes it is preparation. Rejection is not always destruction. Sometimes it is protection. Delay is not always denial. Sometimes it is development. The challenge is that these truths are difficult to recognize while living through the storm. That is why perspective matters so much. A person who views hardship as meaningless, suffering becomes emotionally defeated. But a person who sees hardship as training develops resilience. They stop running from difficulty and start learning from it. Eventually, pain loses the power to intimidate someone who understands its purpose. Rejection loses the power to stop someone who no longer connects it to personal worth. Delays lose the power to weaken someone who trusts the process of growth. And once a person reaches that level of understanding, they begin walking through difficult seasons differently because they realize that some of the greatest transformations in life are hidden inside the very struggles most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid